Hey everyone, welcome back to Like a Boss podcast here with Grit Daily News. We've got Christine McKay. She is one of the world's recognized negotiators. That's right. So she's going to be looking in and listening to all of the questions and answers that I've got going here. So no pressure. She is the host of the podcast, The Venn Zone, and she has a master's class called Venn Masters, which offers education and negotiation. Her whole thing is to represent all of the people, particularly the smaller businesses, to give them a stronger position at the table when negotiating up against the big guys. She, in fact, has negotiated in front of over half of the world's Fortune 500, and she's had an incredible start. We're going to get into that a little bit later. Hey, Christine, welcome to our podcast.
Loralyn, it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much. I'm so excited and glad everybody's tuning in.
Oh, yeah. People are going to want to hear this one because negotiation, right? It's all about that question behind the question. So, are you constantly interpreting what people are saying? Tell us a little bit about your process as you're going through negotiation.
That's very interesting questions nobody's ever asked me before. I suppose I am probably constantly trying to interpret what people are saying. I'm listening for the kind of the back thing, the thing that's not being spoken, but the thing that's not being spoken with words, but the thing that's being spoken behind the words. And so I'm very effective at using very probing questions, drawing people out of their shells, this diffusing high emotion and really kind of getting to the bottom of what an issue is and how we can figure out how to problem solve it and move around it.
Now, with respect to your company, Venn Negotiation, do people come forward and ask you to help because they like the fact that you are business folks rather than attorneys? Or is it just that because you've got this wonderful reputation as the master of negotiation? Why do your clients come to you and ask for help?
A lot of it's because they don't want to go to an attorney. So an attorney takes a very different view than we do as business people. They're focusing on risk mitigation. We're focusing on profit. So we're all about how do you bring that dollar in and maximize what you keep out of it in profit. And the attorney is trying to keep you out of court and out of jail. So it's a very different perspective. And when you are a smaller business and you're cash strapped, or you're having profitability issues, or you're struggling to bring revenue in, or you've got operational issues, or even strategic issues that are impacted by your contracts, an attorney is not always the best solution for helping you to address those. We do not offer legal advice in any way, shape, or form, and work with our clients' attorneys, but we are all about how does this deal create more profit for you? How do you get more out of it? And that's really what we're all about, helping our clients ask for more of what they want and then providing them tools and resources to negotiate for it.
Now, having listened to some of your In the Venn Zone podcasts and read some of the commentary on you that's available online, let's roll things back. It sounds like pretty easy for you to, and even the business owners, to get into the strategic discussions around want this, want that. But it sounds like you've got to get these business owners who are coming to you as clients over the first hurdle, which is figuring out what it is that they want because they don't know what to ask for or how to ask. Is that correct?
Absolutely. That's one of the big challenges for a lot of people in negotiating, is getting clear on what it is that they actually want out of the negotiation. We go into them thinking we want one thing, but there's usually a lot of other things that are possible that we haven't even thought about. But we get so myopically focused on the couple of things that we think we want that we lose the opportunity to find ways of creating more value. So when we're negotiating, we have two negotiations going on all the time, one with our client and one with the counterpart.
Oh, so you do bridge it. So it's almost like mediation.
It's not really mediation because we pick a side. We are clearly on the side of our counterpart, but we are always negotiating with them too, to say, okay, just because this is what you want, this is the probability based on the conversations. This is what we think is doable, right? Because it's all about negotiation is about finding what works for both parties. I was recently on Clubhouse and somebody said a good deal is when you walk away and everybody feels upset that they didn't get what they want. And I'm like, that's a terrible metric for a negotiation. A great deal is when everyone walks away from the table going, that's a great deal. That's when you know you've got a good negotiation, not when everyone walks away feeling like they've lost something. That's a terrible negotiation. And that's really something that we're trying to change. We're trying to change the nature of negotiation to move away from that scarcity level negotiation, that win-loss component, to something that creates more value that's based on the relationship.
And I heard a little bit of that coming through in the conversation that you had on Jillian Michaels' podcast. And in fact, when she was also a guest on yours, that it's not about win-lose. It's about a conversation about the relationship and trying to preserve that relationship so that you don't really, I guess, devolve into an awful intense situation, right? And something that's confrontational and ugly for everybody.
Well, confrontation is a natural part of any relationship. I've been married to my husband for 28 years and he's amazing. But of course we've had conflict, and conflict, you can't avoid it, because no matter, even if I'm speaking to 100 people or if I'm speaking to 2 people, whatever comes out of my mouth is going to be interpreted differently by each person that hears it, because they're hearing it and filtering it through their own life experience, which I don't understand and don't have privilege to, right? And so part of the negotiation process is really figuring out how to build that relationship. It is really a conversation. Negotiation is a conversation about a relationship. And I always say you can't win a relationship, but you can get more value out of it. And even when we're dissolving relationships, whether it's through divorce or partner separations in business, employees and employers separating, there's still a relationship, because your memory of that relationship will influence and impact the quality of your future relationships.
Ooh, that's excellent advice there. And we weren't even asking for tips yet. So, this is good. So glad you're on the show here, Christine. All right. So maybe since we're on the topic of tips, maybe you could give us, is it possible even, a one best tip to be a better negotiator?
Prepare. That is the best tip. I just interviewed Joshua Weiss on my show in the Venn Zone, and we talked about how 70% of the negotiation process should be spent in preparation before you ever engage your counterpart. Like researching what it is that you want, really understanding what your numbers are to figure out what is doable for you and what's not. Spending a lot of time researching your counterpart. Who is the person you're negotiating with? Because you're never negotiating with a company. You're always negotiating with a person. Who is that person? From a company perspective, how do they make money? How do they exist in the market? What's driving them? What's their strategy? What's motivating them? And how can you create a deal that actually speaks to what it is that they want? Figuring out what's going to make your counterpart successful and finding that overlap, which we call the Venn zone, which is the overlap of in the Venn diagram in our 3-circle logo. The Venn zone is that common ground area, and that's where agreement happens. And so preparing, understanding the situation, all the variables that go into the situation, and so that you are prepared when you're at the proverbial negotiation table to make trade-offs and figure out how to make the deal even better for everybody involved.
Excellent. Now, our listeners may not be aware of your backstory, Christine, but it is out there in public. And I think it's incredible that you were homeless with 3 children at the young age of 22 and set out a very big, hairy, audacious goal that you were going to go to Harvard and get a master's from Harvard University. I look at that and think, oh my goodness, that was amazing that you had that vision for success for yourself. And maybe you want to share a little bit about that with our listeners before I ask the question that I really want to ask.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I found out that I was pregnant when I was 19, and I just lost my job and started living out of the back of my 1972 Chrysler Newport and with my black cat Athena. And I lost 25 pounds in my first 2 trimesters. And I met this woman named Roxanne Yukin who saved my life. And she challenged me to write down 4 goals that I wanted to pray about. And I only remember one of them. And the first time I went to the welfare office, because you couldn't get welfare if you didn't have an address, The first time I went, they said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to go to Harvard." And they laughed at me. Of course they laughed at me. But I never lost sight of that goal. And I married a not so nice guy, was doing all our grocery shopping at food bank, would go through garbage cans to be able to put gas in my car, and decided one day when I couldn't feed my oldest daughter that I was done. I just couldn't keep living that life anymore, and decided to do something different, and started at a community college in Western Massachusetts named Berkshire Community College. Got a 4.0, earned a full scholarship to Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. Realized it was going to be easier on my own than with my husband at the time, because I was only allowed to study from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. And so I took my 3 daughters, and we moved to the campus to upstate New York, and started a brand new life. And it was one negotiation after the other, starting with the negotiation between my own ears, and getting myself so that I was in a position to be able to ask for more of what I wanted, and then accepting the help that was offered to me, and then landing an incredible job, one of the highest paying jobs out of my undergrad program, and started working at Verizon, and then started in international mergers and acquisitions, traveling all over the world, first class. And just 11 years transpired between my Newport and my Chrysler Newport, and flying first class on Singapore Air. And I've just had an amazing, amazing career, and it's been such a blessing.
And it's so incredible to hear this. And so you've had all of these different levels of success where you emerged from a really tragic situation, both on a personal level with your, well, let's use the word abusive husband, and being homeless with your children, being in a car, being so confident. Somehow you dug in and figured out how to get yourself to Harvard and worked at it. It's not easy to take all of those courses to work your way there. And like you said, get a full ride with a 4.0. That doesn't come easy. That takes some studying. Mm-hmm. You've flown first class, had high level positions. You are regarded as having achieved mastery in negotiation. What's next? What's the next big successful goal that you want to hit?
So my goal really is to change the nature of negotiation across the world. And I really want to have over 100,000 people certified and licensed as VEN negotiators, helping small businesses level the playing field across the board with big business. I want to make it easier through negotiation for smaller businesses to thrive.
Wow, that's exactly what's needed, because we all know how it is, right? You go in, you're underclassed, you're under-resourced, you go into a negotiation table, you're already coming in feeling like you're a second-class citizen, knowing you're going to be thumped, right, by the big guys, because they've got 8 attorneys at the table, and they've probably been preparing for months, right? Where you've probably, I started working on this yesterday because I had 8,000 other fires that I had to contend with, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I see it all the time. And those big guys come in and put a contract on the table and say, we don't negotiate. And too many smaller businesses believe that. And it's not true. And everything is negotiable except mountains, oceans, rivers, and waterfalls. And I don't recommend negotiating your values either. But those other things are all navigable too. So it's a matter of using effective questions to get to where you want to go. But if somebody says to me, we don't negotiate, I'm like, well, we don't play that game. That's not how this goes. It's just not how this
so
goes.
There, right? It's like, I see you.
Because if they're talking to you, they want something from you, right? And as soon as you want something from somebody, emotion comes into play. So how you manage that emotion, and how you question around it and get curious, because curiosity is the number one required skill for a negotiator. An effective negotiator is in business. I'm not talking hostage negotiations. I'm not talking anything like that. But in negotiation, business negotiation, curiosity is the most important skill. It is the number one value of our business.
And I'm curious. So after you and a client have a particularly intense negotiation session, and you're really trying to keep those emotions at a level where you're not trying to be, I guess, influenced or really show your cards, right? That it's really affecting you. Do you and your clients go out after and scream somewhere in the back parking lot or something, to just like, I had to let it out. I have to know.
Well, I've had some pretty tense I've had negotiations where people have thrown things at me, where I've
Oh,
been ambushed by 5 or 6 guys, not physically ambushed, but like screaming and yelling at me, calling me names, all sorts of things. I have been known to go have a couple drinks with my clients. And when when emotions happen like that, I'm very cool and collected at the negotiation table. I have a saying that a boiling teapot eventually runs out of steam. So when somebody goes off and is doing all that, I'm just like, whatever, I just let them have their rope and do whatever, because I'm listening and getting information in that process. And then I take a break. It's like, I think we need to calm down and people need to cool off. And so I think we should reconvene at a different time. So I'll stop the negotiation, and so that I make sure that I'm not reacting in those situations.
more great advice. So now, a fun question. I'm going to give you some pixie dust, and you get to travel back in time, and you get to change one thing. What would be different?
But this is always an interesting question. I've had a lot of really crappy things happen to me in my life, whether it's being homeless, abusive husband, rape, all sorts of things, right? And I wouldn't wish a lot of things that I've gone through on my worst enemy, but I also wouldn't change any of them, because it is the sum of my experiences that have made me who I am. And I really love who I have become as a woman. And I really wouldn't want to change any of that. It took me a long time to love this person. But now that I have fallen in love with who I am, and not in a narcissistic, egotistical way, I just really love what I've become and what I bring to the world, and how much I care about people, and how much I just want to elevate everybody all the time. I want everybody to achieve all the things that they want to achieve. And so I wouldn't change anything, actually.
Oh, Christine, thank you for sharing all of that on our show here today, and just for being vulnerable and being you, that you haven't let your past experiences define who you are. Instead, you've used them to fuel your trajectory, which has been completely stratospheric. And that's an incredible thing. And you know what? I would say, well, probably 2/3 of our guests here wouldn't change anything from their past. That's the answer that we consistently get, because people know that they had to be forged by fire, and they're stronger because they've experienced what they have.
Absolutely. And it's also makes me a better teacher. All and it makes me a better negotiator. Having gone through, living in the back of my car to being in the boardrooms of Fortune 500 companies and seeing what life is across that entire spectrum gives me a very unique perspective on humanity. And because I've lived across this very broad spectrum, and there are not many of us who have done that, and it really has helped informed who I am as a negotiator, because I can meet people where they're at.
Now, with respect to talking about people, I'd like to find out how our audience can help you, in addition to going to your website, Venn Negotiations, so that they can pre-order a copy of your upcoming book. Why not ask? How else can we help you?
If you or anyone you know is questioning whether they can ask for more of what they want, whether it's in their job, whether it's with a customer or a supplier, or I actually just helped a friend through a divorce, our Venn Masters program, I would love to get as many people in that program to start to feel this movement of changing how we think about negotiations, making relationship the center post, the pivot for all things related to negotiation, whether you're buying a car, whatever, right? It's anytime you're in a relationship, if you or somebody else is in a relationship and you want to get more out of it, then I would love to have you be part of our Venn Masters program and check that out. So that would be awesome.
We'll do. We'll send some links in the podcast. And now, last question, because, we've had a lot of conversation around some rather heavy topics and some inspirational stories. Most important question of the podcast. If I peeked into your closet and I found a pair of shoes that best exemplified your personality, am I looking at a pair of boots, stilettos, sneakers, flats, flip-flops, or something else?
Hardcore stilettos.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, I've been wearing them since I was 12. I actually don't have them on today because they're not my house shoes, but yeah, no, my closet is full of 4 to 6 inch heels.
That's the way to go, right? Just get up there and just stand tall. Helps in negotiation. I always did that too when I was
I'm
doing
short.
contracts. Oh, okay, you're sure.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm short, so it makes a big difference. I started wearing stilettos when I started recognizing that I would never not wear stilettos when I was at Harvard, where everyone was so much taller than I was. And I was stalking with 2 guys and 2 women. And the shortest woman was like 5'10", and I'm 5'3". And I'm like just looking up at them and the conversation's happening over my head, not because they intended it to, but I'm like, this is unacceptable. So I always wear heels when I'm in a group.
there you go. I wear heels when I've got a contract negotiation because then I come in over 6 feet and I
Nice.
try to use it. Yeah.
Yes, you should. I love it when tall women wear heels. That's
Oh yeah.
awesome.
Why not? Right? Yeah.
Yes, I love it.
Well, with that, I just wanted to thank our guest here today, Christine McKay, Venn Negotiation. She is a master when it comes to negotiation. You heard her. Check out her book, Why Not Ask, which will be coming out soon, and enroll in her Venn Masters educational programming so that you can learn how to be a good negotiator. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Loralyn. It's great to be here. I appreciate it. Lots of fun.
And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. You can find us at gritdaily.com. And how about that fantastic intro by Touch Circle?